When you turn 50 or 60, your love can be more intense and passionate. We learn not to sweat the small stuff. We've seen and know people who've lost their partners to illness and death, and we look at our relationship realistically. We learned how important it is to be each other's best friend and being that one person in the world that they can rely on. We need to spend time with each other, having adventures, making memories, and doing new things together, challenging each other to be present and making sure that your partner knows how important you are to one another and that the relationship and the fulfillment of your relationship is the two of you being able to be authentic and vulnerable.
Are you married or in a committed relationship looking for real advice on having love and enriching your relationship? You are in the right place. Welcome to The Couples Expert with Stuart Fensterheim.
Hi, welcome to the Couples Expert podcast. This is Stuart. I want to welcome you to this week's topic that hits really home to me because I am turning 61 in just a couple of weeks. And when I think of being 61 or 60, what I think about are my grandparents or my parents when I was growing up. And they just seem so very old. Now, for all of you listening, you may be in your 20s or 30s or in your 60s, but each one of you probably recognizes that as time goes on, age creeps up on you and on your partner. Perhaps you've been married for a long time. Maybe you just got married. Or maybe you've been married for a few years and are in the middle of raising your kids. One of the questions that people sometimes ask, is it all downhill after 60? Please listen in today, and I'm going to explain to you why I would say absolutely not. Your 60s can be the best years of your life for you and your partner, the happiest, the most playful, the most fun, and quite honestly, the sexiest time of your life. I want to tell you a little story about me. As I said, I'm turning 62. My birthday is September 18th. And what I've began to think about is that I fell in love with the love of my life at 53 years old. After a really unhappy marriage, I felt so alone there. I wasn't sure after the divorce whether marriage was going to work for me. And here I am as a marriage counselor, promoting marriage. But at the same time, thinking a bit that maybe I can help others, but I'm just not suited for it. And that my future is going to have to be just having relationships, but maybe just not getting married and making that kind of commitment. But I had a lot of people in my life pushing me. They wanted me to do this thing that just felt wrong for me. They wanted me to do online dating. Online dating? Have I really come to that? That was sort of the thoughts that I was having. But I'm one of these guys that I do all or nothing. I either do it really, really out there, I get out there and do things, or I just don't do it. And I signed up for probably 5 different online dating sites. Because if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to meet as many people as I can. And then I signed up for eHarmony. And this is not something to promote eHarmony, but eHarmony just seemed to me to be the place to go because there was a profile that you did that was different than on Match or some of the other ones. And I signed up. I signed up almost somewhat tongue-in-cheek. My buddy and I were sort of having a couple of beers, and he pulled out his laptop and said, okay, we're doing this right now. We're both going to sign up. So we signed up. From that point on, life has been good because I met my wife. She was one of the first profiles that I came across. And she looked good, sounded good, and this profile that they had us do matched us together. And when I met her, it was electric. But one of the funny stories about it is we were sitting at Einstein's Bagels. Some of you may know. They sell bagels, obviously. And we're sitting there on our first meet and greet kind of meeting. And there was an elderly woman in the corner who got up to leave. I had noticed her earlier. And she came to our table and she said the following: "You two seem like such a really nice couple. You seem like you really fit." It was scary because my experience with dating had always been one in which it was awkward, and the two of us just began rather quickly to just connect. And now, at 62, that woman is the incredible person that has changed my life. And I now recognize something, that love can happen at any time in your life. I really do believe that having a relationship in your 50s is really the best kind of love. If you're in a relationship with someone now and you've met in your 20s and you're together, I'm not making a comparison. But what I am saying is that if you're in a relationship that began after you've reached a certain age, or you've grown into a relationship in a certain age, that time of your relationship is the best kind of love. You know, when I was a kid and my parents were in their 40s, I thought they were so ancient. But my parents gave me a lot of great lessons, including sharing with me that when you hit your 50s and your 60s, you're just learning how to live life. The older I get, the more I've realized how smart my parents are, and the things that they taught me about being authentic and true to myself, being loving and vulnerable, have really served me well through my adult life. I still hear my mom's voice when things come up, and I marvel at some of the lessons she gave me. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Because when I think about falling in love at 60, or being in love at 60, I think about the title of this podcast, which I went back and forth about what do I want to call this? And turning 60 is this downhill from here. Now, when people talk about being downhill, it's a critical kind of comment. It's negative. It means that life may be over and you're just going to go off and sort of die. But that's not what we're talking about here. I was on a cruise once and I saw this sign and it really hit something in me. What it said is the following: when you get older and you ask yourself, is it all downhill from here? Do you forget you pick up speed as you go downhill? Now, that could be interpreted in a lot of different ways. One way is to say, you're just around the corner, you're going to die, and just everything's going to go so fast. I choose to look at it differently. And I think all of us need to make some choices sometimes when we think about our lives. The perspective and the attitude that we have can really make a difference. What I choose is that everything happens so much easier, because if you're a runner, for example, when you're climbing up the hill, it feels so hard, your gut's like splitting. And when you get to the top of the hill and you start seeing that gravity's going to pull you down on the other side, it's easier. Things flow. Things happen in just the mechanics just fit. That's what I choose to look at this. When you turn a certain age in your 50s or 60s, things happen. You feel better about yourself. You've been through some difficult times. People who fall in love after 50 often have had pain and anguish, and what I'm going to call the emotional torture that we all happen to go through when relationships haven't worked. Sometimes when we're on that tail end of that negative relationship, we spend a lot of time fighting for our belief in ourselves. Our partners may be saying some very critical things to us, but we fight it. We tell them they don't know what they're talking about. But what happens to us internally? At the end stage of a relationship, sometimes, even though you know people are saying things in anger, you accept the feedback and you lose confidence in yourself and you stop believing that you can have a relationship that's going to be meaningful and significant, and you believe your partner. But why would you do that? Why believe someone who you're in a relationship with and it's not working? Why would we believe those messages? Fight that and know that love is right around the corner for you. People get vicious and mean and there's character assassinations, but you have to fight against it. Believe in yourself. Believe that you are the person that you know you are. Don't listen, trust your gut. I think you have to say to yourself, that person's not on my side. I shouldn't believe what they're saying about me. Know that you are that one person in this world going to do the work necessary to have a relationship in which you know that you are lovable and that there are people out there that want you in their life. Don't let the negativity of previous relationships keep you stuck. And if you're in a marriage that is healthy, the two of you together promote each other, be part of each other's growth, sharing a life, recognizing that you are fortunate to be in a relationship with someone who accepts you for who you are, that knows you very well, and that together you're going to grow and feel so good about being in your relationship together. When you're in your 50s and 60s, what seems to occur is that you have more confidence in yourself and you know that you are special and someone that people are fortunate to have in their life. What I hope is that if you don't feel that way, that you turn to each other, you turn to a partner, you turn to a friend, you turn to a counselor, and what you do is that you work really hard on recognizing the good that's in you and find the path leading you to a place where you know your life will be better because you're in it and that there are people in this world that want to have a relationship with someone like you. What you have in your hands, some of you know who I'm talking about, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. There's a golden ticket. What the golden ticket is your love life. The love that you have with a partner. The golden ticket is yours. And at this age, you're going to have the best love that you've ever had. The lyrics of a song in Willy Wonka really sort of touched me. And I believe it really is about the love that we have for each other and the love that you have for yourself. And it goes like this. We are the music makers and we are the dreamer of dreams. We are the movers and the shakers of the world forever, it seems. Those lyrics were written by Arthur O'Shaughnessy. And what it really means is to never give up on yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe that love is possible for you and you have what others want and need, and that you'll have love that will last a lifetime. And isn't that what we're all looking for? And if we have done the work, if we had really worked on ourselves and been open with our partners and been vulnerable and really understand the cycles of your relationship and the steps that it's going to take to have a love where you have someone in your life that truly has your back. That is your golden ticket. And that's what we all need. One of the things I'd like to remind everyone, you don't have to take notes about the things that we're talking about here, because on my show notes, I detailed a list of what the concepts are that we've talked about. And the other thing that you can do is go to my website or go to iTunes, and you could subscribe to the Couples Expert podcast at www.thecouplesexperts.com. And I really encourage you to leave me a comment or review on iTunes. And I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this podcast. And I respond to almost all the comments that people send me. But now let's get back to the topic. After 50 or 60, I think we have an increased ability to meet the relationship needs that we all have, which have to do with being authentic and vulnerable, and really loving our partners and feeling like we have someone in our life that loves us for who we are. It's very exciting to be able to look forward to that in your life. I think we make better choices when we're older because we've had those past experiences and we've seen the consequences for the choices that we might have made that haven't really allowed us to have the kind of relationship that we all want. I think we get a clearer picture as we get older of what we need, and we make those better choices, typically based on our past relationships. I always tell people to listen to their gut. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And you can trust your intuition. Most of the time, it's going to work much better for you than ignoring it and think it's just some overreaction. You need to trust that you know yourself, especially as we get older, so well that you know what's going to work for you and what won't. And as you go through middle life, reaching that 50 or 60-year-old age, one of the things you might do is an assessment of your past relationships, an autopsy, we might call it, about your relationships and what worked and what didn't. You can really learn a lot about yourself by doing this. Typically, what you have to do is take a hard look at yourself and make a determination about what mistakes you may have made that may have shot yourself in the foot, that hasn't allowed you to have the kind of relationship that you really want. And also believe in yourself that you can undo or change many of those things that stopped you from having the love that really has been a lifetime of happiness. Do the work. It's important that you do that. You know, one of the things I have not done in the past in my relationships is really staying focused on the small things that my partner has done for me. It really is the small things that make a difference. I mean, we all know about the big ones. We all know about telling our partners, thank you for really being there for me when my parent passed away or something like that. But do you let your partners know that you appreciate the things that they do every single day? The little things. It's so interesting for me now that I'm in my 60s about what makes me happy in my marriage. The things that typically most of us take for granted, the little things. The fact that my wife does the laundry, for example, washes my clothes, folds them, and leaves them for me folded to put away, I'm like amazed by it. It brings me such joy and love that she does this for me, because I've never had a partner in my life that took the time to do something like that, knowing that it makes my life easier. And what I recognize is that the reason she does it is because she loves me. She wants me to have clean clothes, of course. But more importantly, she wants to give to me in that way. And I see it as such a loving thing. And not only does that hit my brain that way, but I tell her that. And her comments typically are, it's not a big deal. You're making more out of this than it is. But I don't let her do that. I tell her, this is special. And thank you for being the kind of person that does that. Now, when she hears those words from me, what does she do with them? What happens in her brain when she says, my partner, he's a little crazy, but he tells me about the things that matter. And I can always count on hearing those positive things from him when things make a difference, and I never have to worry that I have to play a guessing game. An acknowledgement of these small things can change your relationship in a heartbeat. And we have to make a choice. And it is a choice. You can choose to change this today. And I encourage that. So often I hear from couples in my office that we never say these things. Well, you decide to do it, whether your wife or husband does, because that's the relationship you need and you want, and you know what it will do. Surround yourself with positive people at 60. Don't hang out with people that aren't in marriages that are healthy and happy, or are interested in having extramarital relationships. These are not the people you want to associate with. And at 60, one of the things I think we do is we've been through all the hanging out at the bars and doing those things. At 60, we tend to find ourselves with like-minded people, with people who want healthy and happy marriages and have relationships that when they struggle, they work at it. Be that kind of person. Associate yourself with people and choose those people in your life that have the kinds of relationships that you want to have and that do the work that you need to do. One of the things that's so hard for many couples is this whole concept of a partner that doesn't speak the attachment language that we talk about here at the Couples Expert podcast. They tend to be more task-oriented. And at a younger age, it can create such conflict. But one of the things that I think happen when we get older, and we recognize that sometimes people are who they are, and that we need to do something internally to help us feel better about the relationship. So when my wife is doing laundry, for example, and she doesn't tend to be someone that's very expressive, that might surprise you, but it's true. What I do in my head is as I'm seeing her folding my laundry or doing the laundry, I say, she's speaking to me right now. And she's telling me how important I am to her and that she loves me and that she's excited that we are together and she wants to show me how meaningful I am to her. That's what her doing the laundry really is about. I know that because I know her. And I trust that. And we've had conversations about it. But sometimes I need to hear it more than she expresses it. So I choose to put those words in my head and not the words that say, she doesn't really care because she doesn't tell me how she feels, and I've asked her to do it so many times. Because it's just not her style. And I have to accept her for who she is. And together, she comes closer to me and being more expressive at times, and I accept that at times she can't do that for me. One of the things also that happens when we get older is we speak our minds more. I grew up in a small town, for instance, in Indiana, and it was a Christian Baptist community. And I truly was ostracized for my religion. I'm Jewish. And I would hear kids make these awful anti-Semitic slurs and say things like, you're going to go to hell because you don't believe in the Son of God. And I would say, what do you mean I don't believe in the Son of God? But I do. Jesus was a Jew. And they'd say, no, you are a Jesus killer. I felt awful. And there would be times we'd be in conversations, whether it's adults or younger kids, who would make these comments about, you're Jewing this. It was awful for me. But I didn't know how to speak up, and I didn't. Today, I speak up. I say what's on my mind. I can feel confident enough about myself to say, I have a right to say how I feel, as long as it's done respectfully. And I do it every week here. I now have a podcast in which I can stand up and be true to myself and share with all of you, this audience of wonderful, wonderful people, and let you know what I feel about the issues of the day and talk about the things that matter to me. When something is important to you, you have to share it. Share it with your partner. The things that cause you pain or joy. When you have a reason to celebrate, celebrate. Whether your partner likes the way you're doing it or not, be yourself, be authentic, and let the knowledge that your partner's love for you would have you accept the things that you do, even when they're crazy, even when they're silly, and that they will love you for that. Have the motivation to just have a fun life. When you look back and you see more years behind you than's coming ahead, it keeps you honest. You understand that the end is going to get near every year. I hear now people who I grew up with, people who were young, rock and roll stars that I used to follow, actors, passing away in their mid-50s and 60s. It's kind of terrifying. But it motivates me in so many different ways. It motivates me to have better health, travel more, and paying attention to what's important to me and the connections of the people in my life that I love. I made a commitment a couple of years ago. I haven't quite accomplished it yet, but this year I plan to. I plan to, at 62 years old, to run the Rock and Roll Marathon in Phoenix, Arizona, January the 18th. And I'm in training for that. The training is grueling, but I plan to do that. I've had some bad knees. I've now hired a running coach. And what I'm going to be doing is making my goal, and what I plan to do, by the way, is to get a t-shirt as I'm running that's going to say, this 60-year-old's first half marathon. Check me out. I'm going to be doing some posts as I get through these on my Facebook page, which is the Couples Experts Facebook page, about the training and what I'm doing and the joys and gruesome schedule. And just, I'm so excited about it. I just wanted to share it. All right, back to our podcast. Sorry. The other thing I'm doing this year, by the way, which sort of fits the topic, in September, I'm going to New Orleans, and I'm going to meet up with my brothers. I have one brother that's 2 years older and one brother that's a year and a half younger. And I felt like the three of us, the three biological brothers, because there are half brothers and step brothers in my family, and we haven't, just the three of us, done anything in many, many, many years. I think over 30 now. And some of you might remember the show growing up called My Three Sons. And we used to jokingly be called My Three Sons after the show. It was sort of a joke that we all did because there were three of us. And we're pretty close, but we really don't get together a lot. So one day I was sort of sitting, doing some work and working on a podcast and thinking about this podcast, for example. So I picked up the phone and called them and said, hey, let's do something just the three of us. No wives, no kids, just the three of us. And I am so excited about it because they rather quickly said, sure, that sounds great. So we're going to New Orleans in September, and we're going to go, and we jokingly talked about the movie. I don't know how many of you saw the movie The Hangover, that maybe this will be a wild and crazy weekend like that. But then we all said, but we're too old almost. Not really, but what we're looking to do is sneak food that our wives wouldn't know about and do things. Then what happens in New Orleans, stay in New Orleans, meaning that we're going to just have fun being together and connecting on a level that is something that could take the three of us for the rest of our lives, have a memory that we'll feel so glad that we did it. Having fun in your life with those you love is one of the most important lessons I think I've learned over the years. My dad says you can't take back time. In my 60s, I know that's true. You blink and your kids are grown up, and time passes in an instant. We don't want to take anything for granted. We want to be able to look back and feel good that you're in a good place and that you've learned the lessons that the past has taught you, that you can make the time you have left the best and happiest times in your life. The advantage of being older is typically you're more confident about your sex life than you were in your 20s. You can have the best sex that you've ever had in your 50s and 60s. The question that sometimes comes up for me is, am I a good lover? I hope so, but you'll have to ask my wife. I know at 60 the meaning that sex should have in your relationship. What I mean about that is the confidence is that I am absolutely sure that having a fulfilling and active sex life is an important and essential part of having a relationship in your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, your 90s, and even your hundreds. One of the things that was sort of fun for me lately is when my wife and I first met, she had a friend, her friend's from Europe, and her friend said, so you met this guy, what's he like and all of that? And she said, well, his name's Stuart and he's Jewish. And she interrupted her and she said, he's Jewish? Oh, are you lucky? She said, well, I am. Why? She says, Jews make the best lovers. I hope I've lived up to that reputation with my wife. Sex is not about having an orgasm as much as it is about having fun and being playful. Sharing everything with your partner on all levels, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. I can honestly say that at this age, I'm not as interested in screwing as much as I am in making love. There's a huge difference. I'm not saying that a quickie is something that I wouldn't be willing to participate in, but the reality is a quickie doesn't work so well for me anymore because I need a little more of a build-up for things to work the way that they're supposed to. There's a huge difference from being 20 to being 50 or 60. At 20, that really was almost enough. I was happy if I just got laid. But now, at 50, 60s, I want it to be an experience. Pleasing my wife, pleasing my partner is as important to me as my being pleased. Maybe even more important. It's not enough just to be down and dirty and to have a sexual experience. And what I hear quite often from women who come in my office that I have this conversation with is women like being with older men. And the reason is because of the difficulty that many men have with getting erections, and it means that they need more foreplay, which is much more satisfying to most women, and it's something that most women crave. Sensuality and tenderness and foreplay lasts longer. Confidence in knowing what you need sexually and a willingness to speak up and speak your mind about what you need helps the sexual relationship be more fulfilling, and that doesn't happen as much at a younger age. There's also a willingness as you get older to explore more of the eroticism of a relationship. And it's new territory for a lot of couples. It makes your sex life so much more fulfilling. The problem, though, is as we get older, the physical challenges can get in the way, and there may be more of those things to overcome. There are fitness goals that you can work toward together, sexual positions that you can modify to have greater comfort and pleasure. The more you do after 60, the more the two of you can do. Couples who play together, stay together, are more physically fit, live longer, and lead more active, intimate lives well into their old age. You're not old now. Stop acting like it. Men, see your doctor if you're having any erection problems. Ladies, do what you need to keep your body feeling good so that you can still enjoy your sex. It's going to continue and change as we age. And you should have a sex life until the day you die. Keep your brain active is one of the last things I want to talk about. Don't let that slow down. Challenge yourself to keeping your biggest sex organ working at its peak, and that's your brain. And keep an active fantasy life. Stay close physically, cuddle, caress each other, touch each other in non-sexual ways, and enjoy the physicality of your relationship as much as you can. It's not always going to be there. But while it is, take advantage. Realize something. You both won't always be on the same cycle with your libido, and feel comfortable enough talking about these issues together. There has to be a give and take and an understanding that this is a changing situation. And quite honestly, next week may be different than today. Next month might even be different than the month before. Be patient and loving with one another and enjoy yourselves. So before we close with this podcast, I want to just review and summarize some of the points we went through today. When you turn 50 or 60, your love can be more intense and passionate. We learn not to sweat the small stuff. We've seen and know people who've lost their partners to illness and death, and we look at our relationship realistically. We learned how important it is to be each other's best friend and being that one person in the world that they can rely on. We need to spend time with each other, having adventures, making memories, and doing new things together. Learning how to love and be loved, and speaking about that. Having a language that's about your attachment needs. This can make your relationship so different. And challenging each other to be present and to see the relationship as the most important thing, and that the job, the family issues, all those things. Take a back seat to the two of you and making sure that your partner knows every single day how important you are to one another, and that the relationship and the fulfillment of your relationship is the two of you being able to be authentic and vulnerable. The last message I want to give, one to close with, is that if you're in your first marriage and you're working and things are going well, I commend you. But if you're in your second or third, or even thinking about a fourth, don't be ashamed. Your next relationship can be the most authentic and close connection you've ever had in your life. Give yourself to this person. Be vulnerable. Leave the baggage behind. There's a song I once heard of from the musical Rent, and the line is, "I'm looking for someone's baggage who fits into mine." Don't stop looking for someone that fits with you. Give yourself. This could be the last relationship of your life and make your life the happiest. Don't let time pass you by. Be grateful that you found someone, one person, and that's all we need, is just one person in our world that has us feeling important and special. Join me next week when I ask a question that a lot of people have, which will be, will getting married ruin my sex life? Things are great. We're in love and happy, and we have a lot of sex. And with all that, and the wedding's around the corner, but once I get married, will that change? I'm going to let you know next week how to make sure that that doesn't happen. Take care. And this is the couples expert, Stuart Fenstrom, saying, stay connected. Bye-bye.